The Empire had ruled the stars for 3,000 years. They were tall, beautiful, and powerful. Their skin was pale blue, and their eyes glowed like soft moonlight. They lived for centuries. They built cities that floated in space. They believed they were the greatest species in the galaxy. Then they found Earth. The humans lived on a small blue planet near a yellow star called Sol. They watched them from far away at first. They saw cities made of stone and metal. They saw machines that flew through the sky. They saw people who lived only 70 or 80 years before dying. They laughed. These creatures were so young, so weak, so short-lived. Conquering them would be easy. They were wrong. When the warships came to Earth, the humans did not bow. They did not beg. They fought back with everything they had. The war lasted 20 years. They won in the end, but the victory was hollow. They lost more soldiers fighting humans than they had lost in the previous 1,000 years of conquest. The humans had burned ships from the sky. They had fought in the streets, in the mountains, in the oceans. They had refused to surrender even when their cities turned to ash. The war ended with a treaty. The humans kept their planet. They kept their pride. But both sides remembered the blood that had been spilled. Now, 5 years after the war, a fragile peace existed between the two species. Na stood at the window of her transport ship and watched as orbital station Harmony grew larger against the black sky. The station was built in neutral space, halfway between territory and the Sol system. It was a place for diplomacy, a place for healing old wounds. Did not believe wounds could heal so easily. She was young for only 140 years old. Her hair was silver white, falling past her shoulders like water. Her eyes were the color of pale gold. She wore the formal robes of a diplomat, dark purple with silver patterns along the edges. Her uncle, Lord, had sent her here to observe the final treaty negotiations. Learn about the humans, he had told her. Study them, understand them. One day you may need to fight them again. Had studied humans her whole life. She had read their history, their literature, their science. She knew they were creative. She knew they were stubborn. She knew they were dangerous. But she had never met one in person. The transport ship docked at the station with a soft hum, gathered her belongings and walked through the airlock into the main corridor. The station was busy. Soldiers in silver armor walked past human workers in simple gray uniforms. Diplomats from both species talked in quiet corners. Everyone was polite. Everyone was careful. Everyone was pretending. Could feel the tension in the air like electricity before a storm. The war had ended, but the hate had not. Looked at humans with disgust. Humans looked at with fear and anger. Both sides smiled and spoke kind words, but their eyes told a different story. An officer named met her at the entrance to the diplomatic wing. He was tall and handsome, with sharp features and cold blue eyes. He bowed low. "Lady Na," he said smoothly, "welcome to Station Harmony. I will be assisting your uncle during the negotiations." Nodded politely. She did not like. There was something false about his smile, something hungry in his gaze. But he was her uncle's trusted aide, so she kept her feelings hidden. "Thank you," she said. "Where is the human delegation?" Smile flickered. "They are in the West Wing. Shall I take you to see them?" "Yes." They walked through the station together, talked about the negotiations, about the terms of the treaty, about the importance of showing strength. Listened with half her attention. Her mind was elsewhere. They reached the West Wing. Through a large window could see the human delegation gathered in a meeting room. There were about 20 of them. Some wore formal clothes. Others wore military uniforms. They were talking, laughing, arguing among themselves. Studied them carefully. They were so different from. Their skin came in many colors: brown, tan, pale pink. Their bodies were shorter and thicker. Their movements were quick and restless. They seemed so fragile, so temporary. And yet, these fragile creatures had nearly brought the Empire to its knees. His eyes moved across the room. She saw diplomats reviewing documents. She saw soldiers cleaning their weapons. She saw a young woman with short black hair helping an older man with his coat. Then she saw him. He stood apart from the others near the far wall. He was not talking or laughing. He was simply standing there watching. His arms were crossed over his chest. His face showed no expression. He was not tall, even by human standards. His hair was black and cut short. His skin was tan, marked by old scars along his jaw and neck. He wore a simple black uniform with no medals, no decorations. But something about him made Sa's breath stop in her throat. His eyes. They were dark brown, almost black, and they were looking directly at her. Felt a chill run down her spine. Those eyes were not the eyes of a diplomat or a soldier following orders. They were the eyes of a predator. The eyes of someone who had seen death many times and was no longer afraid of it. "Who is that man?" she asked quietly. Followed her gaze, his face twisted with barely hidden contempt. "That is Han Ho, a Sol Guardian." His heart beat faster. She had heard stories about the Sol Guardians. They were human soldiers who had been enhanced with special drugs and brutal training. They were faster, stronger, and more dangerous than normal humans. During the war, they had killed thousands of soldiers. "I thought the Sol Guardians were disbanded after the war," said. "Most of them died," replied. "Some killed themselves, a few survived." He paused. "That one survived." As if sensing their conversation, Ho turned away from the window and disappeared deeper into the room, but could not forget those eyes. She had come here expecting to find savages. Simple, violent creatures who fought because they knew nothing else. But Han Ho was not simple. She could see intelligence in his gaze. Patience, control. He was not a wild animal. He was something far more dangerous. He was a weapon that could think. That night, alone in her quarters, looked up at the stars through her window. Somewhere out there, past the darkness, was the yellow sun called Sol. And on a small blue planet near that sun lived billions of creatures just like Han Ho. For the first time in her life, Nell understood why the Empire had failed to conquer Earth. And for the first time in her life, she felt afraid. The negotiations began the next morning. Sat at the long table in the main conference room, watching as diplomats from both sides argued over words and borders. Her uncle, Lord, led the delegation. He was old even by standards, over 800 years. His face was hard like carved stone. His voice was cold like winter wind. The human delegation was led by a man named Sung. He was in his 50s with gray hair and tired eyes. He spoke calmly, choosing each word with care, but could see the fire burning beneath his calm surface. He had fought in the war. He had lost friends, family, soldiers under his command. He had not forgotten. Neither side had forgotten. The first day ended with nothing accomplished. Both sides blamed each other for the war. Both sides demanded more than the other was willing to give, watched it all with growing frustration. At this rate, peace would never come. That evening, her uncle called her to his private quarters. Lord sat in a large chair by the window looking out at the stars. His hands rested on his knees. His golden eyes were thoughtful. "You have been watching the humans," he said without turning around. Nodded, "Yes, uncle." "What do you think of them?" Considered her answer carefully. "They are stubborn, emotional. They let their feelings control their words. And they are dangerous," admitted. "More dangerous than I expected." Lord finally turned to look at her. A small smile touched his thin lips. "Good, you are learning." He stood and walked to his desk. "I have a task for you." "What task?" "The humans have requested that we allow one of their soldiers to serve as a liaison for our diplomatic staff. A gesture of trust, they called it." His voice dripped with contempt. "I have decided to accept their request, and I have decided that the soldier will be assigned to you." Sighs widened. "To me, why?" "Because I want you to study him closely, learn how he thinks, learn his weaknesses." eyes grew hard. This peace will not last forever. When war comes again, we must be ready. Wanted to argue, but she knew better than to question her uncle's orders. She bowed her head. As you wish. The next morning, Han Ho was waiting outside her quarters. He stood perfectly still, his hands clasped behind his back. He wore the same simple black uniform as before. His face showed no expression. When opened her door, he gave her a short bow. Lady Na, he said. His voice was deep and quiet. I am Han Ho. I have been assigned as your liaison. Looked at him coldly. I did not ask for a human guard. I know. I do not need your protection. Probably not. His calm responses annoyed her. She had expected him to be defensive, maybe even angry. Instead, he simply accepted her words without reaction. It was like throwing stones at water. Follow me, she said sharply, and stay 3 steps behind. Ho nodded, as you wish. They walked through the station together. Attended meetings, reviewed documents, spoke with other diplomats. Through it all, Ho followed silently. He never spoke unless spoken to. He never complained. He simply watched, listened, and waited. Days passed. The negotiations continued to fail. Tensions grew worse. Soldiers began to mock the humans openly. They called them dirt dwellers and mayflies because of their short lives. They laughed at their small bodies and weak eyes. The humans endured it in silence, their faces tight with controlled anger. One afternoon, witnessed a soldier push a human worker to the ground. They laughed and kicked dirt at the fallen man. Other watched and smiled. Waited for Ho to react. Surely he would be angry. Surely he would defend his fellow human. But Ho did nothing. He stood perfectly still, his face empty like a mask. Later, when they were alone, asked him about it. Why did you not help that man? Ho looked at her with those dark, unreadable eyes. If I had attacked that soldier, it would have started a fight. The fight would have spread. People would have died. The negotiations would have collapsed. He paused. One man's pride is not worth thousands of lives. Was surprised by his answer. It was logical, cold, completely practical. You do not care about your own people being humiliated. I care, Ho said quietly. I just care about other things more. That night could not sleep. She kept thinking about Ho's words, about his patience, about his control. She had expected humans to be wild and emotional, but this man was more disciplined than most she knew. She decided to learn more about him. Using her diplomatic clearance, accessed the military records from the war. She searched for Ho's name. What she found made her blood run cold. Han Ho had fought in 37 battles during the war. He had been wounded 11 times. He had been captured twice and escaped both times. He had killed over 200 soldiers in personal combat. But one battle stood out from the rest. The siege of. Near the end of the war, an army of 10,000 soldiers had attacked a human city called. The city was defended by only 300 human soldiers, including a young squad leader named Han Ho. The battle lasted 11 days. The humans fought from buildings, from tunnels, from rooftops. They set traps. They launched surprise attacks in the night. They refused to surrender even when they ran out of food and water. They fought with guns, with knives, with their bare hands. When the battle ended, the army had won, but they had lost nearly 4,000 soldiers, 4,000 killed by 300 humans. Only 9 humans survived the siege. Han Ho was one of them. Stared at the report for a long time. Her hands were shaking. She tried to imagine what it must have been like, fighting for 11 days without rest. Watching your friends die one by one, knowing you would probably die too, but fighting anyway. What kind of person could survive something like that? The next morning looked at Ho differently. She saw the scars on his neck and hands. She noticed the way he checked every room before entering. She observed how his eyes were always moving, always watching for danger. This man was not just a soldier. He was a survivor. A warrior who had walked through hell and somehow kept walking. That evening, she asked him a question she had been afraid to ask. Why did you become a soldier? Ho was silent for a long moment. Then he said, because someone had to stand between the ones I loved and the things that wanted to hurt them. And during the war, what did you fight for? His jaw tightened. His eyes grew distant. You do not want to know what I did during the war, Lady Na. Should have stopped there, but something made her push further. I read about. Ho went very still. For a moment saw something flicker in his eyes, pain, grief, rage. Then it was gone, hidden behind his mask. Then you know, he said softly. Good night, Lady Na. He walked away into the darkness of the station. Watched him go, her heart heavy with questions she could not answer. She was beginning to realize that Han Ho was not her enemy. He was something far more complicated. And she was not sure what to do about it. 2 weeks passed on Station Harmony. The negotiations moved slowly, like a ship pushing through thick ice. Some days there was progress. Other days there was only anger and blame. Continued her work as a diplomat. She attended meetings, wrote reports, and spoke carefully chosen words to carefully chosen people. And through it all, Han Ho walked 3 steps behind her like a shadow. She still did not understand him. At first she had tried to ignore him. Then she had tried to study him like a scientist studying a strange animal. Now she found herself simply watching him, noticing small things, the way he held doors open for people without expecting thanks, the way he checked on the human workers during their breaks, the way he sat alone at night, staring out at the stars. One morning saw something that changed everything. She was walking through the medical bay when she heard voices. Curious, she stopped near an open doorway and looked inside. Ho was there. He was helping a young human woman carry heavy boxes of medical supplies. The woman had short black hair and kind eyes. Her name tag said Ah. She was a medic assigned to the station. Ah smiled at Ho as they worked together. You don't have to help me, you know. This is my job. I know, Ho said, but the boxes are heavy. I can handle heavy boxes. I know that too. Ah laughed. It was a warm sound full of life. You're a strange man, Ho. Most soldiers think they're too important for this kind of work. Ho set down a box and looked at her. For a moment his hard face softened. No one is too important to help. Felt something strange in her chest. She had seen nobles walk past servants without even seeing them. She had seen soldiers treat workers like dirt beneath their boots. But here was this human, this warrior who had killed hundreds in battle, carrying boxes for a medic like it was the most natural thing in the world. She did not understand. Later that day, another incident caught her attention. A drunk soldier was harassing a human engineer in the lower corridors. There was shouting insults, pushing the human against the wall. Other watched and laughed. The human's face was red with humiliation and fear. Arrived just as Ho stepped forward. He did not shout, he did not threaten. He simply walked up to the drunk soldier and stood there, looking at him. His dark eyes were calm and steady. His body was relaxed but ready. The drunk soldier turned to face him. He was much taller than Ho, with broad shoulders and thick arms. What do you want, human? Ho said nothing, he just looked. The silence stretched on. The drunk soldier's smile began to fade. Something in Ho's eyes made him uncomfortable, something cold, something dangerous. Finally the soldier stepped back. This isn't worth my time, he muttered. He walked away, followed by his friends. The human engineer stared at Ho with wide eyes. Thank you. Ho nodded once, then turned and walked back to his position near. His face was calm again, empty, as if nothing had happened. But she had seen the fear in the soldier's eyes. She had seen what Ho could do without lifting a finger. That night she could not sleep. She lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the man who followed her everywhere. Finally, she got up and walked to the observation deck. She found Ho there, sitting alone in the darkness. He was looking out at the stars. Somewhere beyond the viewport, the yellow sun of Sol burned like a tiny flame in the vast black ocean of space. "May I sit?" asked quietly. Ho glanced at her, surprised. Then he nodded. She sat down beside him. For a long time, neither of them spoke. They just watched the stars together. Finally, asked the question that had been burning in her mind. "Do you hate us?" Ho did not answer immediately. He looked at the stars, his face thoughtful. "During the war," he said slowly, I hated so much that it ate me alive. I did things I am not proud of, things that keep me awake at night." He paused. "But the war is over now." "That does not answer my question." Ho turned to look at her. His dark eyes were tired, sad, but not angry. "I hate what war makes people do," he said. "I hate the pain and the death and the waste, but I do not hate your people, Lady Na." He looked back at the stars. "I am just tired." Studied his face. She saw the lines around his eyes. She saw the weight on his shoulders. She saw a man who had been carrying too much for too long. "I read more about your war," she said softly. "About what happened to the Sol Guardians after the fighting ended." Ho's jaw tightened. "Then you know." "Many of them could not live with what they had done." "Yes." "Many of them killed themselves." "Yes." Hesitated, then she asked, "Why did you survive?" For a long moment, Ho was silent. His hands rested on his knees, still and quiet, but could see the tension in his shoulders. "Because someone told me I was not allowed to die yet," he finally said. "Commander, he said I owed it to the ones who did not make it to build something better." "And do you believe that?" Ho smiled. It was a small, sad smile. "Some days." Felt her heart ache. She had spent her whole life being taught that humans were savages, violent animals who fought because they knew nothing else. But sitting here, looking at this broken man, she saw something different. She saw someone who had sacrificed everything to protect others, someone who carried the weight of the dead on his shoulders, someone who was still fighting, even when he had nothing left to give. "I think I was wrong about you," she whispered. Ho looked at her curiously. "Wrong about what?" "About humans, about you." She looked down at her hands. "I was taught that your kind were primitive, cruel, but you are none of those things." "I can be cruel," Ho said quietly. "I have been cruel. The war made monsters of all of us." "Maybe, but you chose to stop being a monster. You chose to carry boxes for medics and protect workers from bullies. You chose to be kind." Ho was silent for a long time. Then he said, "Kindness is the only thing that makes the pain worth bearing." Looked at him, really looked at him, not as a human, not as a soldier, not as an enemy. Just as a man. And for the first time, she felt something warm and strange bloom in her chest, something she did not have a name for yet. They sat together in silence until the station lights dimmed for the night cycle, then stood and walked back to her quarters. But she looked back once before she left. Ho was still sitting there alone, watching the stars, watching Earth, watching home, and realized that she was starting to care about what happened to him. More than she should. The nightmares came every night. Ho lay in his small quarters on Station Harmony, his eyes closed but his mind burning. In his dreams, he was back on Earth, back in the fire. He was 23 years old again, young, strong, angry. The ships had come without warning. They filled the sky like a swarm of silver insects blocking out the sun. Then the bombs fell. Cities burned. Millions died in hours. Ho remembered running through the streets of searching for his family. The air was thick with smoke and screams. Buildings collapsed around him like falling giants. Dead bodies lay everywhere. He found his mother first. She was lying in the rubble of their home, her eyes open and empty. He held her hand and cried. Then he found his sister. Han was only 16. She had always been small and shy, with bright eyes and a quick smile. She loved books and music and growing flowers in the garden. She had never hurt anyone in her life. She was lying in the street, badly wounded. A piece of metal was stuck in her stomach. Blood was everywhere. Ho fell to his knees beside her. "Stay with me." Her eyes found his face. She tried to smile. "Opa. Do not talk, save your strength, help is coming." But they both knew help was not coming. The city was burning. Everyone was dying. There was no one left to help. Reached up and touched his face with a bloody hand. "It hurts," she whispered. "Make it stop hurting." Ho held her hand. He did not know what to do. He did not know how to save her. He could only sit there and watch as the light slowly faded from her eyes. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm sorry I couldn't stay longer." "No, no, please. Take care of yourself, Opa. Live, please live." Her hand went limp in his. Her eyes closed. She did not open them again. Ho screamed. He screamed until his throat was raw. He screamed at the sky, at the ships, at the universe that had taken everything from him. Then he stopped screaming. And he started fighting. He joined the army that same day. He volunteered for the Sol Guardian program, even though most volunteers died during the enhancement process. The doctors injected strange chemicals into his blood. They rewired his muscles and bones. They trained him in ways that broke normal men. The pain was unbearable, but Ho welcomed it. The pain meant he was still alive. The pain meant he could become strong enough to hurt the ones who had hurt him. 2 years later, he was no longer human. Not really. He was faster than any normal man, stronger, more deadly. His body could heal from wounds that would kill others. His mind could stay calm in the middle of chaos. He became a weapon, and he used that weapon to kill. The dreams changed. Now Ho was standing on a rooftop covered in blood. Below him, the streets were filled with soldiers. His friends were dying one by one, but he kept fighting. He remembered the face of every he had killed. He remembered the sound of their screams. He remembered the feeling of their blood on his hands. He had told himself it was justice. He had told himself they deserved it for what they did to Earth, for what they did too. But deep inside, he knew the truth. He had enjoyed it, the killing, the revenge, the power. He had become the monster he hated. Ho woke up in the darkness of his quarters, his body covered in sweat. His heart was pounding. His hands were shaking. He sat up slowly and pressed his palms against his eyes. The dreams were getting worse. They always got worse when he was around, seeing their faces, hearing their voices, remembering. He stood and walked to the small window. Outside, the stars burned cold and distant. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm sorry for what I became." The next morning, Ho reported for duty as usual. He stood 3 steps behind Lady Na, watching and waiting, but his mind was far away. Noticed something was wrong. She saw the dark circles under his eyes. She saw the way his hands trembled slightly when he thought no one was looking. She saw the ghost of pain in his face when he looked at soldiers. During a break in the negotiations, she approached him. "You did not sleep last night," she said. Ho looked at her with surprise. "How do you know?" "I can see it in your face." She hesitated. "Are you unwell?" "I am fine." "You are lying." Ho almost smiled. "You are learning to read humans, Lady Na." Did not smile back. "I am learning to read you." She stepped closer. "What haunts you, Han Ho? What makes you wake in the night with fear in your eyes?" For a long moment, Ho said nothing. Then slowly he pulled back his sleeve. His arm was covered in scars, burns, cuts, old wounds that had healed badly. "Every scar is a memory," he said quietly. "Every memory is a person I could not save, or a person I killed." He pulled his sleeve down again. "The war ended 5 years ago, but for me, it never really stopped." Felt tears forming in her eyes. She did not know why. She barely knew this man. He was human. He was her enemy. She should not care about his pain. But she did. "I am sorry," she said softly, "for what my people did to your world." Ho shook his head. "You did not do it. You were not even born when the war started." "But my people—" "Your people made choices, bad choices. My people made bad choices too. That is what war does. It makes everyone into something they never wanted to be." He looked at her with those dark, tired eyes. "I do not blame you, Lady Na. I do not blame most. I just want the killing to stop. I want something good to come from all the death." Reached out and took his hand. It was rough and much larger than hers. She felt him freeze at her touch. "I want that too," she said. They stood there for a moment, hand in hand, human, and then Ho gently pulled away. "You should go back to the meeting," he said. "Your uncle will wonder where you are." Nodded, but before she left, she said one more thing. "You are not a monster, Han Ho. I do not care what you did during the war. I see who you are now, and who you are now is a good man." She walked away before he could respond. Ho watched her go. For the first time in years, something warm flickered in his chest, something like hope. He crushed it quickly. He had learned long ago that hope was dangerous. Hope made you weak. Hope made you believe in things that could never be. But as he stood there in the corridor, watching disappear around a corner, he could not stop the small voice in his head. Maybe, it whispered, maybe things can be different. He pushed the voice away and returned to his duties. But the warmth in his chest did not fade. The peace was a lie. Had known this from the beginning. He had watched the negotiations with disgust, his hands aching to grab his weapon and end the farce. Humans did not deserve peace. They deserved extinction. For months he had been planning, gathering loyal soldiers, stealing weapons, waiting for the perfect moment. Tonight the moment had come. In his private quarters, addressed his followers. There were 30 of them, all true believers, all soldiers who remembered the shame of nearly losing to dirt-dwelling savages. "Brothers," said, his golden eyes burning with hate, "tonight we take back our honor. Tonight we show the galaxy that the Empire does not bow to vermin." His soldiers nodded eagerly. "We will kill the human delegation, all of them. Then we will broadcast a message claiming responsibility in the name of the military command," smiled coldly. "The humans will demand revenge. War will begin again. And this time we will not stop until every last one of them is dead." "What about Lord?" one soldier asked. "He will try to stop us." "Lord is old and weak," spat. "He has grown soft from too many years of politics. When the war starts, he will have no choice but to fight." He raised his fist. "For the Empire." "For the Empire," his soldiers echoed. They moved out into the darkness of the station, their weapons hidden beneath their cloaks. The diplomatic banquet was being held in the grand hall of Station Harmony. Both delegations were present, humans, and sat together at long tables, eating food and drinking wine. They talked carefully, politely, pretending to be friends. Sat near the head of the main table, beside her uncle. She was wearing a beautiful silver dress that matched her hair, but her mind was not on the banquet. She kept looking at Ho. He stood against the far wall with the other human soldiers, watching the room with his usual quiet intensity. Their eyes met briefly. He gave her a small nod. She felt her heart flutter. Lord noticed her distraction. "You are staring at the human again," he said quietly. Looked away quickly. "I was not staring." "Do not lie to me, child." His voice was cold. "I have seen how you look at him. It is unacceptable." "Uncle, he is human. He is nothing. Remember your place." Wanted to argue. She wanted to tell her uncle that Ho was not nothing, that he was brave and kind and broken in ways that made her heart ache. But she knew better. Her uncle would never understand. She stayed silent and turned back to her food. The lights went out. For a moment there was only darkness and confusion. People shouted, chairs fell over, glass shattered. Then the explosions began. The first bomb hit the eastern corridor, sending fire and debris through the air. The second hit the main power junction, plunging the entire station into emergency lighting. Red warning lights flashed. Alarms screamed. Soldiers in black armor stormed into the grand hall, weapons blazing. Saw people fall, humans and alike cut down by plasma fire. Blood splashed across the white tablecloths. Screams filled the air. "Assassins," someone shouted, "we're under attack." The room became chaos. Diplomats ran for the exits. Soldiers tried to fight back. Bodies piled on the floor. Felt someone grab her arm and pull her toward a side door. It was one of her uncle's guards. "This way, Lady Na. We must get you to safety." They ran through the corridor. Behind them, the sounds of battle echoed through the station. More explosions, more screams. The guard led her through twisting passages, deeper into the station. But they did not get far. 3 soldiers in black armor stepped out of the shadows ahead of them. Guard raised his weapon, but he was too slow. A plasma bolt hit him in the chest. He fell without a sound. Backed against the wall, her heart pounding with terror. The soldiers approached slowly, their weapons pointed at her. "Lady Na," one of them said. His voice was familiar. "We have been looking for you." He removed his helmet. It was. Felt her blood turn to ice. "What are you doing?" "What should have been done years ago," smiled cruelly. "The humans must die, all of them. And you, dear Lady Na, will be my message to your uncle, proof that no one is safe, not even his own blood." "You are insane." "I am a patriot," raised his weapon. "Goodbye, Lady Na." A shadow moved behind the soldiers. There was no warning, no battle cry, just sudden, violent motion. Ho hit the first soldier from behind, snapping his neck with a single twist. The second soldier spun around, but Ho was faster. He grabbed the soldier's weapon arm and broke it at the elbow. The soldier screamed. Ho silenced him with a blow to the throat. Fired his weapon, but Ho was already moving. The plasma bolt missed by inches. Ho closed the distance in a heartbeat and struck hard across the face. The commander staggered back, blood dripping from his lip. "Run, Lady Na," Ho said. His voice was calm, quiet, deadly. "I will hold them here." "Ho, there are too many." "I said run." More soldiers appeared at the end of the corridor. 5 of them, 10, all wearing black armor, all carrying weapons. Ho stood between and the enemy. He had no weapon. His uniform was torn. Blood dripped from a cut on his forehead, but his eyes were steady. "You cannot win," laughed, wiping blood from his face. "You are 1 man, we are 20. Ho did not respond. He simply waited. "Kill him," ordered. The soldiers advanced. Wanted to stay. She wanted to fight beside him. But she knew she would only be in the way. She was not a soldier. She could not help him. All she could do was survive. She turned and ran. Behind her, she heard the sounds of combat begin. Weapons firing, bodies hitting the floor, men screaming. She ran until her lungs burned. She ran until she could not run anymore. She found a place where debris blocked the corridor and collapsed against the wall, gasping for breath. Then she heard it. Through a cracked window, she could see into a parallel corridor. And in that corridor, she saw something she would never forget. Han Ho was fighting. He moved through soldiers like a storm through dry leaves. Every strike was precise. Every movement was perfect. He took weapons from fallen enemies and used them against the living. He ignored wounds that would stop normal men. Blood covered his face, his hands, his clothes, but he kept fighting. Had seen warriors train for centuries. She had watched the greatest soldiers of the empire demonstrate their skills. She had never seen anything like this. Ho was not fighting like a man. He was fighting like something ancient and terrible, like a force of nature that could not be stopped. And he was doing it for her. More soldiers came, they shot him, they stabbed him, they beat him with their fists, but he would not fall. Every time they knocked him down, he got back up. Pressed her hand against the glass, tears streaming down her face. "Please," she whispered, "please do not die." Appeared with a plasma blade glowing in his hand. He was bigger than Ho, fresher, stronger, but Ho faced him without fear. They fought. It was brutal and fast and savage. Had the advantage, but Ho refused to give up. He took wounds that should have killed him. He kept moving, keep fighting. "Why will you not die?" screamed. Ho smiled, blood dripped from his lips. "Because I made a promise." He charged forward one last time. The corridor filled with light and thunder. When the smoke cleared, saw Ho standing over his body. Then Ho collapsed, screamed his name and ran toward him, not caring about the danger. She burst through a side door and fell to her knees beside him. He was badly hurt. Wounds covered his body. His breathing was shallow. His eyes were closed. "Ho," she sobbed, cradling his head in her lap. "Ho, please wake up, please." His eyes opened slowly. He looked up at her face and smiled weakly. "You are safe," he whispered. "Good." Then his eyes closed again. Seeing him fight, she whispered, "I cannot live without him." Alarms blared in the distance. Help was coming, but did not move. She held Ho in her arms and prayed to every god she had ever heard of. "Please let him live. Please." The battle for Station Harmony lasted 3 hours. When the station's security forces finally arrived with Commander Sung leading a squad of Sol Guardians, they found corridors filled with bodies. Most were soldiers. Some were innocent people caught in the crossfire. The walls were scorched with plasma burns. The floors were slick with blood. But the fighting was over. Sung found in the eastern corridor, still holding Ho in her arms. She was covered in his blood. Her silver dress was ruined. Her face was pale with shock and exhaustion, but she would not let go of him. "Lady Na," Sung said gently, "we need to take him to the medical bay." Looked up at him with hollow eyes. "He saved me. He fought all of them alone. He would not stop." Sung nodded slowly. He had known Ho for 15 years. He had seen him do impossible things before, but even he was shocked by what had happened in this corridor. 23 bodies lay scattered across the floor. 23 of his best soldiers, all dead. And Ho had killed them with his bare hands and stolen weapons while protecting a woman he had known for only a few weeks. "That is who he is," Sung said quietly. "He does not know how to give up." Medical teams arrived and carefully lifted Ho onto a stretcher. His wounds were terrible. Multiple plasma burns, deep cuts, broken ribs, a collapsed lung. Any normal man would have died 10 times over. But Ho was not a normal man. Followed the medical team to the bay. She refused to leave. She sat in a chair outside the operating room, watching through the window as doctors worked frantically to save his life. Hours passed. Lord came to see her. His face was hard with anger. "You have shamed our family," he said coldly, crying over a human like a lovesick child. Looked at him with eyes that had seen too much death. "That human saved my life, uncle. He saved many lives tonight. He is still human. He is still beneath you." Something snapped inside. She stood and faced her uncle with a fire he had never seen in her before. "He is worth more than 100 nobles," she said. "He fought without weapons against impossible odds. He took wounds that would kill anyone else. He did it not for glory or reward, but because it was right." She stepped closer. "Can you say the same about any of us?" Lord's face darkened. "You forget your place." "No, uncle, I am finally remembering it." Turned away from him. "Leave me alone. I want to be here when he wakes up." Lord stared at her back for a long moment. Then he turned and walked away without another word. Inside the operating room, the doctors fought to save Ho's life. They repaired his collapsed lung. They closed his wounds. They pumped new blood into his veins to replace what he had lost. 3 times his heart stopped. 3 times they brought him back. The lead doctor, a human woman with gray hair and steady hands, worked without rest. She had seen the battle recordings. She knew what Ho had done. She would not let him die on her table. "Come on, soldier," she muttered as she worked. "You did not survive 20 years of war to die now. Fight, keep fighting." Dawn came to the station. The artificial lights brightened to simulate morning. The chaos of the night slowly gave way to order. Bodies were removed. Damage was assessed. Reports were written. The government condemned this attack and promised to punish all involved. The conspiracy was exposed. Dozens of extremists were arrested. The peace treaty was rushed to completion, signed by both sides in a show of unity against those who would destroy it, but did not care about politics anymore. She sat beside Ho's bed in the recovery ward, holding his hand. His face was pale. Bandages covered most of his body. Machines beeped softly, monitoring his vital signs. He had been unconscious for 2 days. The medic had seen helping him before, brought her food and water. The young woman's eyes were red from crying. "He saved my life too," Ah said quietly. "During the attack, some of soldiers came to the medical bay. Ho was already there. He fought them off so we could escape." She wiped her eyes. "He was already badly hurt when he came to find you. He knew he might not survive, but he came anyway." His throat tightened. Why would he do that? Ah smiled sadly. "Because that is who he is. He protects people. It is the only thing that makes him feel alive." The third day came. Ho still did not wake. Commander Sung visited. He stood at the foot of the bed, looking at his fallen soldier with a mix of pride and grief. "I told him once that he was not allowed to die," Sung said. "He better not prove me wrong now." "Tell me about him," asked. "Tell me who he was before the war." Sung was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "He was a good kid, happy, always smiling. He wanted to be a teacher, can you believe that? He wanted to spend his life helping children learn." He shook his head. "Then the war came and took everything from him, his family, his dreams, his innocence. But he kept going." "Yes, he kept going," Sung looked at. "You know why he really survived the war? It was not because of his strength or his training. It was because he found something worth living for." "What was that?" "Hope, the hope that someday the killing would stop, the hope that his sacrifice would mean something." Sung's voice grew soft. "I think he had given up on that hope. I think he was just going through the motions, waiting to die." "And now?" Sung looked at the way held Ho's hand, the way she looked at his sleeping face. "Now, I think he has found something new to hope for." On the fourth day, Ho opened his eyes. Was dozing in her chair when she felt his hand move in hers. She sat up quickly, her heart racing. "Ho!" He turned his head slowly. His dark eyes found her face. For a moment he just looked at her as if he could not believe she was real. "You are still here," he whispered. His voice was weak and rough. "Of course I am here," felt tears rolling down her cheeks. "Where else would I be?" "You should be with your uncle, with your people." "You are my people now." The words came out before she could stop them. She did not try to take them back. Ho stared at her. Something shifted in his eyes. The walls he had built around his heart began to crack. "Lady Na," she said firmly, "my name is." He was quiet for a long moment. Then slowly, painfully, he smiled. He repeated, "That is a beautiful name." She laughed through her tears. "You are impossible. You almost died. You should not be thinking about names." "I am always thinking," he said. "It is a problem." She squeezed his hand. "Do not ever do that again. Do not ever leave me like that again." Ho looked at her for a long time. Then he said something he had not said to anyone in years. "I promise." Outside the window the stars burned bright and cold. Somewhere out there the yellow sun of Sol was shining. Earth was spinning. Life was continuing. And in a small room on a space station, two people from different worlds held hands and dared to believe in a future together. It was only the beginning. 2 weeks passed since the attack on Station Harmony. Ho recovered slowly. His body, enhanced by years of Sol Guardian modifications, healed faster than any normal human. But the wounds had been severe. He would carry new scars for the rest of his life. He did not mind. Scars meant he had survived. Scars meant he could keep going. What surprised him was that he wanted to keep going now. Visited him every day. She brought him food from the station's kitchens. She read to him from poetry books. She told him stories about her childhood about the crystal forests and floating cities she had grown up seeing. And she listened when he finally found the courage to talk about. "She was my little sister," Ho said one evening. They were sitting by the window of his recovery room watching the stars. She was 16 when she died. She had never hurt anyone. She just wanted to grow flowers and read books. Held his hand but said nothing. She knew he needed to speak more than he needed answers. "I spent years hating your people for what happened to her. I killed so many. I told myself it was justice. But it was not justice. It was just pain looking for somewhere to go." "And now?" asked softly. "Now I am tired of hate." Ho looked at her. His dark eyes were clear for the first time in years. "I want to build something instead of destroying. I want to protect instead of kill. I want—" He hesitated. "What do you want?" "I want to see what tomorrow looks like with you in it." Felt her heart swell with emotion. She leaned closer and rested her head on his shoulder. "Then let us find out together." But their peace was interrupted the next morning. Lord came to Ho's room with 4 guards at his back. His face was like carved ice. His golden eyes burned with cold fury. "You have corrupted my niece," he said to Ho. "You have filled her head with foolish ideas about humans and living together. It ends now." Ho stood slowly, ignoring the pain in his healing wounds. "I have done nothing wrong." "You have made her forget her duty to her people." "Her duty," stepped forward, her voice sharp. "My duty is to build peace, uncle. That is why you sent me here, or have you forgotten? I sent you here to study the enemy, not to fall in love with one." The word hung in the air. Love. Neither nor Ho had said it out loud before, but hearing it now from Lord's angry lips made it suddenly real. "Did not deny it." "Yes," she said quietly. "I love him. Is that so terrible? Is it so wrong to love someone who has shown more honor and courage than anyone I have ever met? He is human. He is a good man. That is all that matters." Lord's face twisted with disgust. "You will come home with me, now. I will find you a proper match among our own people. This madness will be forgotten." "No." The word was simple and final. Stood straight and tall, her golden eyes meeting her uncle's without fear. "I am not a child anymore, uncle. I will not be told who to love or how to live. The war is over. The treaty is signed. It is time for both our peoples to learn that we are not so different. You would shame our family for this creature." Ho stepped forward. His voice was calm but firm. "Lord, I know you hate me. I know you think I am nothing. But I swear to you I will spend the rest of my life protecting your niece. I will make her happy. I will never betray her trust." "You expect me to believe the word of a human." "I expect nothing." Ho met the old lord's gaze without flinching. "But I am telling you the truth anyway. You can accept it or not. That is your choice, but has made her choice, and I will stand beside her no matter what comes." Lord stared at him for a long moment. The silence stretched between them like a drawn blade. Then something strange happened. The anger in his eyes flickered, just for a moment. He looked at Ho, really looked at him, and saw something he had not expected. He saw a man who had lost everything, and still found a reason to hope. He saw a man who had every reason to hate, but had chosen to love one instead. He saw himself 800 years ago, when he had been young and foolish and brave. "You are stubborn," said finally, "both of you. Yes, replied, we are. Another long pause. Then Lord turned and walked toward the door. At the threshold he stopped. The treaty requires a joint human delegation to oversee its enforcement. I will recommend that you both serve on it. He did not look back. Do not make me regret this. He left without another word. Stared at the empty doorway, shocked. Did he just? I think he gave us his blessing, Ho said, in his own way. Laughed. It was a sound of pure joy, bright and clear. She threw her arms around Ho and held him tight. We did it, she whispered. We actually did it. Ho held her back, careful of his healing wounds. This is only the beginning. The road ahead will be difficult. Many people on both sides will hate us. I know. Are you sure you want to walk that road with me? Pulled back and looked into his eyes. Someone once told me that kindness is the only thing that makes the pain worth bearing. I believe that now. And I believe that together, we can show the galaxy that hatred does not have to win. Ho smiled. It was not his usual sad smile. It was something new, something warm and hopeful. Then let us begin. 3 months later, Han Ho and Na stood on the observation deck of a transport ship heading toward Earth. The yellow sun of Sol grew larger in the viewport. Behind it, the small blue planet called Earth was waiting. Ho had not been home since the war ended. He had been afraid to go back, afraid of the memories, afraid of the ghosts. But he was not alone anymore. Stood beside him, her silver hair glowing in the light of Sol. She was nervous. She had never been to Earth before. She did not know what the humans would think of her. They will stare at you, Ho warned her. Some might be rude, many lost family in the war. I know, took his hand, but I am not afraid, not with you beside me. Ho squeezed her hand gently. I will always be beside you, I promise. The ship entered Earth's atmosphere. Through the viewport they could see oceans and continents, mountains and forests, gasped at the beauty of it all. It is so blue, she whispered, so alive. Yes, Ho's voice was thick with emotion. This is my home, and now it is your home too. They landed in a rebuilt city that had once been destroyed by war. The streets were full of people. Human and diplomats walked together under the bright sun. Children played in parks that had once been battlefields. It was not a perfect world. There was still anger, still pain, still hate. But there was also hope. As Ho and walked together through the streets, people stopped to stare. Some frowned, some whispered, but some smiled. One old woman, her face marked by the scars of war, approached them slowly. She looked at for a long moment. Then she looked at Ho. Is this the one, she asked, the one who saved all those people on the station? Ho nodded. The old woman smiled. It was a broken smile, full of grief and healing at the same time. Welcome to Earth, she said too. Thank you for giving us hope again. Felt tears in her eyes. Thank you for letting me share it. They walked on, hand in hand, toward a future neither of them could have imagined. Behind them, the sun of Sol burned bright and warm. Around them, a broken world slowly healed. And in their hearts, a new star was rising. A star called hope. A star called love. A star called tomorrow.